Subscribe to our channel for more gripping workplace stories and corporate drama. I'd been at Crestview Solutions for 8 years, climbing from intern to senior analyst. My desk was a fortress of organized chaos, spreadsheets, coffee mugs, and sticky notes with deadlines. I prided myself on catching details others missed, like discrepancies in financial reports or subtle legal risks in contracts. My boss, Karen, always praised my thoroughness, calling me the backbone of our compliance team. But last month, everything changed in a single meeting. Karen called me into her office, her face unreadable. She didn't meet my eyes as she spoke. "We're restructuring," she said, voice flat. "You're being replaced." I felt my stomach drop. Replaced? After years of late nights and flawless reports? She mentioned new talent, but didn't elaborate. I left her office numb, my mind racing. By noon, I was packing my desk. The reason became clear soon enough. Her nephew, Ethan, was taking my spot. Ethan was fresh out of college, barely 22, with a shiny degree and zero experience. I'd met him at a company picnic once. He'd spilled beer on my shoes and laughed it off. Now, he was sitting at my desk, fiddling with my pens like he owned the place. Karen introduced him as a promising addition to the team. I overheard whispers, co-workers questioning his qualifications, but no one dared challenge Karen. I was given 3 days to transition him into my role. 3 days to hand over 8 years of expertise. I forced a smile, walked him through my processes, and explained my filing system. He nodded absently, more interested in his phone than my words. I wanted to scream, but I kept it professional. My final day, I left a detailed guide on his desk. He didn't even thank me. I walked out, feeling erased. That night, I couldn't sleep. My apartment felt too quiet, the weight of unemployment sinking in. I'd given everything to Crestview, weekends, holidays, even my health. My reports had saved them from fines before, catching errors that could have cost millions. Now I was jobless, replaced by a kid who couldn't spell compliance. I kept replaying Karen's words, "We're moving in a new direction." What direction? Nepotism? I opened my laptop, staring at old work files I'd backed up. One caught my eye, a report I'd drafted last week, unfinished, about a contract with a major client, Vertex Corporation. It had red flags, vague liability clauses, potential regulatory violations. I'd flagged it for review, but it was still on my drive. I hesitated, then closed the laptop. It wasn't my problem anymore. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, a coworker. "You won't believe this," it read. "Ethan's a disaster." She said he'd ignored my guide, messed up a client call, and lost a key document. I felt a grim satisfaction but also worry. That Vertex contract was due soon, and Ethan wouldn't catch its issues. I'd seen lawsuits cripple companies over less. I thought about calling Karen, but why would she listen? I was out. Ethan was in. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that my work wasn't done. I reopened my laptop, pulled up the Vertex report, and started refining it. Habit, maybe, or spite. By midnight, I'd polished it into a 20-page breakdown of risks and recommendations. I saved it, unsure what I'd do with it. Day 2 post-firing, I got a call from Mike, our legal counsel. He sounded panicked. "We can't find your Vertex report," he said. "Ethan says it's handled, but there's nothing in the system." I bit my tongue. Ethan hadn't even logged it? I told Mike I had a draft at home. He begged me to send it. "This could be a lawsuit waiting to happen," he said. I hesitated. Why help a company that discarded me? But I thought of my coworkers, people I'd mentored, who'd lose their jobs if Vertex sued. I emailed Mike the report, no note, just the file. He called back an hour later, floored. "This is gold," he said. "You caught things we'd have missed." I felt a spark of pride but also bitterness. They didn't deserve my help. By day 3, rumors swirled. Sarah texted that Ethan was floundering, missing deadlines and botching presentations. Karen was starting to notice. Meanwhile, Mike was circulating my report internally. It detailed how Vertex's contract violated 3 state regulations, with potential fines in the millions. I'd included case law and mitigation steps. Mike called again, saying the CEO had seen it and was blown away. They were revising the contract based on my findings. I stared at my phone, conflicted. Part of me wanted to gloat. Ethan couldn't have done this. But I also felt used. They'd replaced me, yet my work was saving them. I didn't respond to Mike. I needed space to think. That night, I started job hunting. I wasn't going back. The following week, I got an unexpected email from the CEO, David. He apologized for my sudden departure and thanked me for the Vertex report. It averted a major crisis, he wrote. He hinted at wanting to discuss my future with Crestview. I laughed bitterly. Now they wanted me. After choosing Ethan? I didn't reply. Sarah filled me in. Ethan was on thin ice, unable to handle basic tasks. Karen was scrambling to cover for him. The Vertex contract was renegotiated, saving Crestview from a lawsuit that could have bankrupted them. My report was the hero, not Ethan. I felt vindicated but hollow. 8 years, and it took a near disaster for them to see my value. I kept job hunting. Job interviews were rough. I'd explain my experience, but the question always came, why did you leave Crestview? I kept it vague, restructuring, but the truth burned. Replaced by a nepotism hire. I wondered if Karen regretted her choice. Sarah said Ethan was now assisting rather than leading, demoted in all but name. My report had become a legend in the office, passed around like a sacred text. I smirked, imagining Ethan's face, but I also felt a pang. That was my work, my legacy, saving a company that didn't save me. I landed an interview with a rival firm, Pinnacle Group. They were impressed by my resume, especially my compliance wins. I didn't mention the Vertex report yet. Pinnacle's interview was intense. They grilled me on regulatory law, contract risks, everything I'd mastered at Crestview. I nailed it, drawing on examples from my Vertex report without naming it. They offered me a senior role, better pay than Crestview. I hesitated, still processing my betrayal. That night, Mike called again. David wants you back, he said. Name your terms. I was stunned. Terms. They thought they could buy me back after tossing me aside? I told Mike I'd think about it, but my mind was leaning toward Pinnacle. Crestview didn't get to erase me, then beg for my return. I deserved better. I started drafting my acceptance to Pinnacle, feeling a weight lift. Before signing with Pinnacle, I met Sarah for coffee. She spilled more tea. Karen was under fire for hiring Ethan. The board was questioning her judgment. My report had saved Crestview, but it also exposed Ethan's incompetence. Sarah said people missed me, my rigor, my calm under pressure. I felt a twinge of nostalgia but no regret. Crestview taught me my worth the hard way. I signed with Pinnacle that night, excited for a fresh start. My Vertex report was a quiet triumph, proof I was more than replaceable. Ethan was still at Crestview, but he was irrelevant now. I'd moved on, stronger. The lawsuit threat was gone, thanks to me. I didn't need their apology. My first week at Pinnacle was a whirlwind. The team was sharp, the work challenging. I dove into new projects, applying lessons from Crestview. My Vertex report became my mental blueprint, catch every detail, anticipate every risk. I didn't talk about it, but it shaped my approach. Meanwhile, Sarah kept me updated. Ethan was relegated to grunt work, and Karen was on a performance plan. The board had praised my report in a meeting, calling it career-defining. I laughed. Career-defining for whom? Not me, not at Crestview. Pinnacle valued me from day one, no nepotism in sight. I started mentoring a junior analyst, passing on my systems. It felt good to build again. A month in, Pinnacle tasked me with a high-stakes audit for a client, Meridian Tech. Their contracts were a mess, loopholes, missing clauses, just like Vertex. I worked late, channeling the same focus I'd given Crestview. My report was 30 pages, airtight, with recommendations that saved Meridian from potential litigation. My new boss, Lisa, called it exceptional. I felt seen, valued. Back at Crestview, Sarah said my legend was growing. Ethan was quietly let go, unable to keep up. Karen's job was still at risk. I didn't gloat, but I felt justice. My work had outlasted their mistake. Pinnacle was my future now, and I was thriving. I started settling into Pinnacle's culture. Team meetings were collaborative, no favoritism. I thought about Crestview's toxic dynamic, Karen's blind loyalty to Ethan, the whispers no one acted on. I realized I'd been too loyal, staying through red flags. My Vertex report wasn't just a save, it was my wake-up call. I began speaking up more at Pinnacle, sharing ideas in meetings. My colleagues listened, respected my input. One day, Lisa pulled me aside. "You're a game changer," she said. I smiled, thinking of Crestview's loss. Sarah texted that they were hiring for my old role. No one mentioned Ethan anymore. I'd moved on, but my report still echoed. 6 weeks into Pinnacle, I got a LinkedIn message from David, Crestview's CEO. Another apology, more desperate. He offered a promotion, a raise, even equity. I read it twice, stunned. They were floundering without me. I replied politely, declining. Pinnacle was my home now, and I wasn't looking back. My Meridian report had earned me a bonus, and Lisa hinted at a leadership track. I thought about Ethan, wondering if he'd learned anything. Probably not. Crestview's mess wasn't my problem anymore. My focus was on building my career, not fixing their mistakes. I saved their company once. That was enough. At Pinnacle, I took on bigger clients, each project sharpening my skills. I started teaching workshops on compliance, sharing tricks I'd honed at Crestview. My Vertex report inspired a new checklist I shared with the team, catching risks early. Colleagues called it genius. I didn't tell them its origin story. Too messy. Sarah said Crestview was still recovering from the Vertex scare. They'd hired a new analyst, but she wasn't me. Karen was demoted, no longer leading our team. I felt a strange mix of pity and closure. They'd underestimated me, and it cost them. I was building something better now, free of their drama. One evening, I found an old Crestview notebook in my apartment. Flipping through, I saw notes from the Vertex project. Scribbles, highlights, my messy handwriting. It brought back the stress, the late nights, but also my pride. That report was my masterpiece, even if Crestview didn't deserve it. I tucked the notebook away, a relic of a past life. At Pinnacle, I was working on a new report for a healthcare client, equally complex. I caught a major error in their vendor contract, saving them from a regulatory fine. Lisa praised me in a company-wide email. I was no longer the replaceable analyst. I was indispensable. Sarah invited me to Crestview's holiday party, a bold move. I declined, but she insisted on meeting for drinks. Over cocktails, she spilled more. The board had audited Karen's decisions, and my report was their gold standard. Ethan was working retail now, a far cry from senior analyst. I didn't laugh. It wasn't funny, just sad. Crestview was trying to rebuild, but morale was low. I told Sarah about Pinnacle, my new projects, my team. She was happy for me, but admitted she missed my presence. I missed her too, but not Crestview. My Vertex report had closed that chapter. I was writing a new one now. At Pinnacle, I was tapped for a cross-department project, collaborating with legal and finance. It felt like Crestview's early days, before the nepotism soured things. I led a meeting, presenting a risk assessment that echoed my Vertex work. The room listened, nodded, asked questions. No one dismissed me. I thought about Karen, how she'd ignored my warnings about Ethan. Pinnacle was different. They trusted my judgment. Sarah texted that Crestview's new analyst quit, overwhelmed. I wasn't surprised. My report had set a bar they couldn't reach. I focused on my project, pouring my energy into it. Pinnacle was my proving ground now. By my third month, I was leading Pinnacle's compliance training program. I used my Vertex experience to teach others how to spot legal risks. My workshops were a hit. Analysts scribbled notes, asked for templates. I felt like I was rebuilding what I'd lost at Crestview, but better. Sarah said Crestview was outsourcing some compliance work, unable to fill my role. I didn't care anymore. My focus was on Pinnacle, on mentoring, on growing. The Vertex report was a distant memory, but its impact lingered in my confidence. I'd saved Crestview from a lawsuit, but I'd saved myself by leaving. I was where I belonged now. One day, I got a call from a lawyer at Vertex Corporation. They'd heard about my report through industry gossip. "You saved us too," she said. Apparently, my findings had prompted them to tighten their own compliance. She asked if I'd consult for them. I was flattered but declined. I was committed to Pinnacle. Still, it felt good to know my work had ripples beyond Crestview. I told Lisa about the call, and she grinned. "You're a star," she said. I thought about Ethan, about Karen, about the desk I'd left behind. They'd tried to erase me, but my work spoke louder. I was done with Crestview for good. Pinnacle promoted me to compliance manager after 4 months. The role came with a corner office, a team of 5, and a seat at strategy meetings. I thought back to Crestview, where I'd begged for resources. Here I had support, trust, a budget. I built a new compliance system, inspired by my Vertex report but streamlined for Pinnacle's needs. My team loved it, and our clients noticed. Sarah texted that Crestview was still struggling. Another analyst quit. I felt a pang but no guilt. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. My new office had a view, and I was writing my own story now, not theirs. At a Pinnacle conference, I presented my compliance system to industry leaders. They asked questions, took notes, even clapped. I mentioned the Vertex case study without naming Crestview. It was my work, not theirs. Afterward, a competitor offered me a job on the spot. I declined politely. Pinnacle was home. Back at the office, Lisa said my presentation was trending on LinkedIn. I checked. It had thousands of views. My name was out there now, tied to excellence, not betrayal. Crestview was a footnote. Sarah said they'd stopped mentioning Ethan. My report was still their benchmark, but I was long gone. I started mentoring more at Pinnacle, taking junior analysts under my wing. One, Priya, reminded me of myself. Hungry, detail-obsessed. I gave her my Vertex checklist, now refined into a Pinnacle template. She caught a contract error her first week, earning praise. I felt proud, like I was paying it forward. Sarah called, saying Crestview's CEO was stepping down. The Vertex fallout had shaken the board. I didn't care much. My focus was Priya, my team, our clients. Crestview's chaos was their problem. My report had saved them, but I'd saved myself by walking away. Pinnacle was my future. 6 months in, Pinnacle sent me to a national compliance summit. I spoke on a panel, sharing insights from my Vertex and Meridian reports. The audience loved it, asking for my slides. I networked with VPs, regulators, even a senator's aide. My name was becoming a brand. Back home, Sarah said Crestview was bleeding clients. My absence, and my report's shadow, loomed large. I didn't gloat. It wasn't worth it. I was too busy building. Priya and I co-authored a new compliance guide, now used company-wide. Pinnacle was thriving, and so was I. Crestview was a lesson, not a regret. One day, I found an old Crestview email in my spam folder. It was Karen, asking to meet. She wanted to make things right. I deleted it. She'd had her chance. Pinnacle had just landed a major client, and I was leading their audit. My Vertex report was now a case study in my workshops, stripped of Crestview's name. It was my victory, not theirs. Sarah said Karen was let go, replaced by an outsider. I felt nothing. No anger, no joy. I was past it. My team at Pinnacle was my focus, my legacy. I'd turned betrayal into triumph. Crestview could keep their chaos. At Pinnacle's year-end review, I was named Employee of the Year. Lisa read my accomplishments: the Meridian Save, the compliance system, the summit talk. My team cheered. I thought about my last day at Crestview, packing my desk while Ethan smirked. Now I was holding a plaque, surrounded by people who valued me. Sarah texted congratulations, adding that Crestview was downsizing. I didn't respond. My Vertex report had saved them, but it also freed me. I was building something bigger now, something mine. Pinnacle saw my worth from the start. I'd never be replaced again. Priya and I published our compliance guide as an industry white paper. It got picked up by a major journal, citing my Vertex work as groundbreaking. I smiled, knowing Crestview would see it. They tried to erase me, but my work was louder than their mistake. Pinnacle gave me a raise, more responsibility. I was shaping their compliance future, mentoring a new generation. Sarah said Crestview's new analyst was using my old guide. Ironic. I didn't care. My focus was forward. New clients, new challenges. The Vertex report was my past. Pinnacle was my present. I was where I was meant to be. A year after leaving Crestview, I got a call from a headhunter. A Fortune 500 company wanted me as their compliance director. The salary was double Pinnacle's. I was tempted but loyal. Pinnacle had bet on me when Crestview hadn't. I declined the offer but used it to negotiate more resources for my team. Lisa agreed, calling me irreplaceable. I laughed, thinking of Ethan. Sarah said Crestview was a shell now, losing talent and clients. My report was still their lifeline, but I was long gone. I mentored Priya for a promotion, proud of her growth. My career was soaring, built on my terms. At a Pinnacle retreat, I shared my story with my team, not the full Crestview saga, just the lessons. I talked about resilience, about turning betrayal into fuel. They listened, inspired. Priya said I'd changed how she saw her career. I thought about my Vertex report, how it saved a company that didn't save me. It was my turning point, proof I could rise above. Crestview was irrelevant now. Sarah had left too, joining a startup. I was happy for her. My focus was Pinnacle, my team, my legacy. I'd built something stronger than Crestview's chaos. I was unstoppable. Looking back, I see Crestview as a crucible. It forged me, but Pinnacle polished me. My Vertex report was my last gift to them, a parting shot that saved their skin. Now, I'm leading Pinnacle's compliance division, shaping industry standards. Ethan's name is forgotten. Karen's too. My work lives on, in my team, my systems, my reputation. I don't need Crestview's validation. I have Pinnacle's trust, my team's respect, and my own pride. I was replaced, but I rose higher. 3 days after I left, my report saved them. A year later, I saved myself. That's the real victory. Don't miss out. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of triumph and workplace justice.